Breaking news at 11. The state of California is suing the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department over what it calls inhumane conditions at county jails. Attorney General Rob Bonta just made that announcement. The press conference just ended. We'll have more throughout the day and on the NBC4 News at 3. And we're following more breaking news. A victory for the Trump administration after the Supreme Court ruled that immigration agents may stop and detain anyone they suspect is in the U.S. illegally. The decision lifts those restrictions on tactics used during immigration enforcement operations. NBC4's Conan Nolan joins us here in studio. And so, Conan, let's talk about what this now means for the immigrant community. Well,
it's a victory for the Trump administration, and those restrictions that were essentially enabled by a judge here in Southern California have been essentially overturned. Now, what's at issue here is what constitutes reasonable suspicion that someone may be in the country illegally. And in a move that was somewhat surprising today, the High Court issued an emergency order that halts the restrictions that had been imposed by a federal judge on ICE raids here in Southern California. The 6-3 vote of the U.S. Supreme Court is a victory for the Trump administration and the Department of Homeland Security. The High Court's conservative majority, at least temporarily, removing restrictions that had been placed on immigration and customs enforcement officers in the 7 counties of Southern California. L.A.-based federal judge Mame Frimpong had kept ICE agents from using factors such as race, language, where they are working, or what they are doing in formulating probable suspicion that someone may be in the country illegally. The judge said such considerations alone or together violated the Constitution's Fourth Amendment restriction on unreasonable searches and seizures. But a majority of the U.S. Supreme Court disagreed enough that today they stayed that court order, allowing ICE to operate as they had done in the past. Jessica Levinson is with Loyola Law School.
I think the Supreme Court's decision today gives the ability and authority for ICE agents to go to car washes and construction sites and look at the color of people's skin or their ethnicity, whether or not they're speaking Spanish or speaking in an accent, and to at least have a conversation about that person's immigration status. I don't think you can look at this as anything other than a win for the executive branch, a win for the Trump administration, a win for ICE agents who are saying, how else are we to enforce immigration law?
The opinion, Brett Kavanaugh, one of the Supreme Court justices who signed the majority, indicated that the number of undocumented immigrants in Southern California is, in his words, extraordinary, and that it shouldn't be a surprise that immigration agents are conducting enforcement actions in this region. The 3 liberal justices strongly dissented. Justice Sotomayor, in her dissent, says we should not live in a country where the government can seize anyone who looks Latino, speaks Spanish, and appears to work in a low-wage job. We also got a response from the mayor of L.A. I want the entire nation to hear me when I say this isn't just an attack on the people of L.A. This is an attack on every person in every city in this country. Today's ruling is not only dangerous, it's un-American and threatens the fabric of personal freedom in the United States of America.
So we're hearing these statements. What happens next, though?
Well, keep in mind, this is an emergency order. It does not refer to the points and authorities, the main argument over what this judge was saying. That could come back and you have a whole hearing and they go over, whether or not the merits of this decision is accurate or not. The fact, though, that they voted to stay the execution of this court order indicates they pretty much believe Donald Trump will win. And the administration will win when it comes to the full court. So what it means now is that L.A. is now being treated the same way as the rest of the country, which is they can take all sorts of things into consideration. It's not probable cause. We're not going to arrest you, but we can go to a car wash because we have research to show that a lot of undocumented people work at car washes, and if we believe somebody is possibly here illegally, I can talk to you and perhaps detain you until we find out whether or not you should be deported.
What is a recommendation for those who are American citizens, let's say, and they are racially being profiled? Is there concern for them? Because a lot of them were being detained.
True. I'll tell you one thing that everybody should do, whether you're here illegally, is not run. Because if you run, that's an evidence of guilt, and that gives them reasonable suspicion to arrest you or detain you. So, again, There are a number of strategies. Immigration rights groups have been talking about that, whether or not you can cooperate. You don't necessarily have to cooperate with an immigration agent. You're not forced to do anything. The fact, though, is that they are no longer bound to stay away from construction sites, car washes, and those kind of places in order to seek people who they believe here are illegal or undocumented.
All right. Conan Nolan, thank you so much
Sure.
for that. I know you're going to stay on top of it. All right. NBC4's Guad Venegas joins us now. He's live in Hollywood. And Guad, you've been speaking to day laborers there who say they're not surprised by this ruling. And they say they believe it doesn't matter anyway. Guad.
Annabelle, good morning. As I was hearing Conan talk about the locations where they can arrive and try to speak to some of the individuals who then might be detained, Home Depot is one of those locations, right? We've known for months. This all started in the LA area about 3 months ago. Many of the Home Depots have been hit more than once. We're in Hollywood at one of the locations where a raid took place yesterday. So we arrived earlier this morning before the decision was announced to speak to some of the laborers, also to speak to some of the vendors and get a reaction on the last raid. And one of the things that they mentioned to me, many of them who are well informed of that injunction, was that they felt like federal agents were not following the injunction. They all told me stories. 3 different individuals that I spoke to told me they've seen agents approach individuals and detain them without asking any questions, and they didn't believe that the agents were following the rules. They believed that they were still making these stops. There is video of yesterday's raid. Also in the video that took place here, the raid that took place here yesterday, you can see the agents arguing with some racist who were yelling at them. At one point, we can see in that video that someone shared with Telemundo 52 and NBC4, agents forcing 2 individuals into that vehicle. Now, it's difficult to understand how this will change what's actually happening on the ground, right? Because we don't have an actual list of the enforcement taking place, right? No list from the federal government that tells us the number of raids. What we do is we get these reports many times from activists, others from videos that we find on social media. We confirm them. We reach out to DHS or ICE or Border Patrol, who then sometimes confirm whatever is happening. If there was some type of enforcement operation, they will often confirm the number of people detained. But we do it on a case-by-case basis. So there's really no way to know if after this the number of raids will increase. We did see them slow down a bit after the injunction was put in place. They were still happening. So the people here tell me, to them it's all the same, because just yesterday we saw one right here at Home Depot, Annabelle.
You know, so Guad, what are people saying about how these raids have impacted the economy? Because this is something that we've been seeing across Los Angeles since June 7th.
Right, because they don't just impact the individuals that are being detained. They impact areas of the city where the raids take place, like outside of this store. This is not just an area where day laborers come look for work. This is also an area where you have food vendors that are set up outside. So it was an area for the community to stop by. Many who had nothing to do at Home Depot, individuals that were on their way to work, would stop by and buy food from the vendors. So earlier this morning, I spoke to some of the vendors who told me they have seen their sales drop 80 to 85% in the last 3 months. Many of them telling me they're taking on a job. And the day to day, there was another vendor who was next to me who carries a bag on his chest with his passport. He's a U.S. citizen, and he says he's so scared that he keeps the passport just in case they come up to him. He saw some of the raids where individuals were detained without being able to speak a word or pull out their IDs or passports to the agents that were here during those raids, Annabelle.
Okay, and I have a feeling we're going to see a whole lot more of that. Guad Venegas, thank you very much for that coverage.